Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
it's Monday, all you mentees, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to remind you that you gotta go back to work. It's more of a reminder that, hey, that means I get to take an advanced look at a new Marvel Omni. Today, we're gonna be looking at the Giant-Size Marvel Omnibus from Marvel Comics. You guessed it. So, let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on May 27th or 28th, depending on where you get your books. And this one here does have 3 different covers. So we have this cover right here. This is one of the direct market covers. And this one is supplied by Gil Kane. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover. That is the one that's supplied by Dave Cockrum. On the right-hand side is the other direct market cover, and that is supplied by John Romita Sr. So those direct market covers are only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, bdcosmos.com, comicsbugle.com, readcomics.com, Forbidden Planet, Dying Breed Collector, Organic Price Books, In-Stock Trades, Tales of Wonder, DCBS, and of course, your local comic book store. But everything else underneath the dust jacket, and of course, the spines, like Hawkeye there, is going to be the same. So yes, let's take a closer look at the spine here of the direct market cover. You have the Marvel Omnibus, the Giant-Size Marvel logo there, and this big, beautiful image of Hawkeye right there. I'll look at the underneath the dust jacket here in a little bit. Massive names, huge stories. I love the font they're using here because that is a throwback font. And then, of course, this image here. The book itself retailing for $150. What's collected here, iconic superheroes, plus a few horror heavyweights star in extra length adventures, including some of the most important Marvel stories ever told. I think that is an understatement because there is a historical story here that is told, of course, through Giant-Size. And I'm pretty sure you all know that I'm talking about X-Men, right? I mean, that was a game changer. And this is what the flaps look like. It doesn't get bigger than this. And the creator, so a lot of creators in here, like Chris Claremont, Jerry Conway, Steve Englehart, Don Perlin, Gil Kane, Don Heck, Ed Hannigan, Gene Colan, Jim Starlin, just to name a few. And let's look at the Avengers image here. That is the art on board. So we are going to crack this book open. I'm going to talk about what's collected in here and how it's mapped, what's been collected elsewhere, and then, of course, what's missing from the Omni. And look at the extras in the back and the build. All right. Let's go ahead and crack it open. You have black end sheets here and your title page and the scene here from Giant-Size Avengers 4 and Giant-Size Marvel. All of these creators, Jerry Conway, Marv Wolfman, Len Wein, Chris Claremont, Rich Buckler, John Buscema, Gil Kane, Ross Andrew, Gene Colan. There's a name here for the first time working on a Marvel comic, and that is John Byrne. But also legends. I mean, legends like Dave Cockrum here, Don Perlin, Alfredo Alcala. And then down here is your inkers like Joe Sinat, Chick Stone, Mike Esposito, Don Heck, colorists like Petra Scottesi, Stan Goldberg, Linus Oliver, Linda Lessman, just to name a few in your letters like Art Simek, Joe Rosen, John Costanza, and Ray Holloway, to name a few. There is a note here about the previously published content includes negative depictions and or mistreatments of people of cultures. These are products of their time. I didn't see anything censored, but I've read a lot of these so often that I may have overlooked it, but I I did not see anything. Here's your table of contents, and yes, there are page numbers. I know that is important for people. The way that this is mapped is not really in publishing order, but it is in kind of story arc order. So you have what kicks it off, the very first Giant Size, and I'll give you a little history here in a little bit, and that is Giant-Size Superstars featuring the Fantastic Four, and then the title became Giant-Size Fantastic Four with number 2, 3, 4, Giant-Size Superheroes featuring Spider-Man, and then that was renamed to just Giant-Size Spider-Man with another number 1, 4, 5, and I'll explain what is also missing here and why, probably. And then, of course, the Chillers featuring Curse of Dracula, spinning into just Dracula, and they tell you the page number, what the title of the chapter of the single issue is called, and even when it's broken down here, like Giant, oh, that is so awesome. The Giant-Size Chillers is here for the first time collected. All right, so what is collected in here, and then I'll go over the little history of this. Giant-Size Superstars number 1, Giant-Size Fantastic Four 2 through 5, Giant-Size Superheroes featuring Spider-Man number 1, Giant-Size Spider-Man 1, 4 and 5, Giant-Size Chillers featuring Curse of Dracula 1, Giant-Size Dracula 2 through 5, Giant-Size Creatures featuring Werewolf by Night, number 1, Giant-Size Werewolf 2 through 5, Giant-Size The Defenders 1 through 5, Giant-Size Avengers 1 through 4, Giant-Size Man-Thing 1 through 5, Giant-Size Chillers 1 through 3, Giant-Size Super Villain Team Up 1 and 2. I know a lot of people are excited about that one. And Giant-Size X-Men number 1, as well as Giant-Size Invaders. This book has 1,272 pages and retails for $150. So in the 70s, they wanted to come back to these big books to kind of compete against DC's, the Distinguished Competition's 100 Super Special. And with these books, what they decided to do, instead of annuals, making them just coming out once a year, they decided to do them quarterly, and that's why the name Giant Size came out. Some of it was reprints of older material, and some of it was new material. But regardless of, the new material was always in canon. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of things that happen within the Giant Size books that impact the titles. And there's a famous one for that, and that is, of course, Giant Size X-Men, which, of course, I'm going to talk about. But this one here, for example, is the whole fight with the Incredible Hulk and the Thing. And then by the time the next book came out with Giant-Size Fantastic Four number 2, because that first one came out, the Superstars, I think the Superstars came out in May of 1974, and then the Giant-Size Fantastic Four 2 came out in August. So there's, like I said, quarterly. And they wanted to do a 50th anniversary. So this is in celebration of its 50th year. In 2024, they started releasing a lot of the facsimiles, and then they actually did like Giant-Size Miles Morales Spider-Man type of book, and they're doing a Giant-Size X-Men tribute this year with the whole Kamala Khan storyline, which I haven't read, and I'm curious what kind of stories they're telling through here. But all of these stories were in canon. They, as a matter of fact, they kind of go back and mention some of these stories. So if you're reading, for example, the Fantastic Four, or Giant-Size Fantastic Four number 3 here with the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse, really the next place to go, the next issue, was Fantastic Four 155. Some of the stories continue into the Giant-Size issues, but in here, what's collected is Giant-Size Fantastic Four number 3, and then you get Giant-Size Fantastic Four number 4, because this is just a Giant-Size collection. This is, of course, being the first appearance of Jamie Madrox. That's right, Professor Xavier makes an appearance through here. You get the origin of Jamie, which they still use to this day, but it is officially his first appearance. This one was written by, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Claremont and Len Wein. I think that's how it goes. Maybe it's Len Wein and then Chris Claremont. Pinups are here. They don't really have letter pages, but whatever, like, back matter they did have without the ads or the house ads, they are collecting it here. So Giant-Size Superheroes was really Giant-Size Spider-Man. It was more of a Marvel team-up type of book that featured the characters of Man-Wolf and, of course, the character of Morbius. Now, the quarter that this came out, they had Human Torch replace Spider-Man in the Marvel Team-Up comic, and I think it was the only time that they did that. Here's some pinups by, of course, none other than the legendary Steve Ditko. And then you have Giant-Size Spider-Man This time, it's with Dracula coming around. Now, when I was going through the content, I'm sure you probably noticed that there is no Giant-Size Spider-Man number 2 or Giant-Size Spider-Man number 3. There is a reason for that, and the reason is Spider-Man Giant-Size number 2, this is the Punisher issue, this is 4, is the that's the Master Kung Fu story. So again, trademark, licenses, it's a bummer, but yeah. But the Spider-Man and Punisher stories collected in here. Giant-Size Spider-Man 3 was the Doc Samson story, so also not in here, unfortunately. That one I remember reading when I was younger, and that one, not Doc Samson, I'm sorry, Doc Savage. That one, I thought the characters were going to meet, but they never really met. It was like telling a story in 2 different timelines. But the rest of it is in here, as well as the next story arc that you're going to see, and that is Giant-Size Chillers. This is a huge book if you're collecting Dracula, because it is the first appearance of Lilith, Dracula's daughter, who will play a big role in the pages of Tomb of Dracula. You get that beautiful Gene Colan artwork, and then you get the rest of the Tomb of Dracula series. So, back to what I was talking about. In the 1970s, in 1974, what Marvel decided to do was make these giant-sized books. Some of them would tell new stories with some reprinted material in the back, making the price, I think, at first it was like 50 cents, if I'm not mistaken, and then they went up a little bit if it was like nothing but new material. The sales didn't really stick around, so by 1975, they just started using reprint material, so you are going to see some of the covers here of some of the books. This right here is the very first John Byrne Marvel book right here. It's the first time we see John Byrne's artwork, looking a lot different, of course, than what we're used to. Sorry, this is the John Byrne stuff right here. But it is the first time we see John Byrne on internal pages. This is the first appearance of Tigra, the werewoman, right here in the pages of that Giant-Size Werewolf. And then you get it officially changed to Giant-Size Werewolf here. So it's not Werewolf by Night, but this is the Frankenstein's monster meets Werewolf by Night. And this is the one where he goes back to Transylvania, the one where he meets Morbius. And if you're thinking, wait a second, I already have like the Werewolf by Night Omni, isn't that collected in here? Yes, this does do a lot of double dipping if you have the series, right? If you have like the Avengers, which I do, I'm going to compare it to the Avengers Omni Volume 5, because I think the first 4 giant sizes are in here. And then I'll explain what some of the other ones are. Like Giant-Size Defenders has been collected, of course, in the Defenders Omni. And it is back here. It's also been collected in Epic Collection. So let's get to some of the stuff that hasn't, that I know I was thrilled about. And I know a lot of my viewers are like, oh my gosh, I remember that. These are the Avengers issue, which of course features the whole Celestial Madonna. So that's the Legion of the Undead continues in here. Yeah, right here, the Avengers. This is the formation of the Invaders, which has been collected before. But the whole storyline with the whole Legion of the Undead characters, that was a continuation from previous comics. Always love that piece right there. So it's interesting that they don't give you like a recap of what's happened previously. So it's like, oh, you had to have read that previous Avengers comic and then come back to this. So if you had been reading like Avengers 130, I think it's 132, it would have said to be continued in Giant-Size Avengers number 3. And then you follow the story into 133. This is more for people that just were into the Giant-Size books. They were oversized and brings back a lot of memories. This is a classic historical moment right here. It's a double wedding of the swordsman, the Katati swordsman, that, and Mantis, and then of course Scarlet Witch and Vision. The Man-Thing, Giant-Size Man-Thing. Every time I see that, I swear, I don't know, I can't help but just become that 12-year-old boy that just snickers at that title. Still works. Alfredo Alcala's beautiful artwork. He can't help but do like a sword and sorcery type of art. I just love it. It fits the tone of this story here by Gerber. What is not in here, speaking of Man-Thing, is the Giant-Size Howard the Duck joining the Defenders. But you do get the story of Giant-Size Man-Thing 4, where it has the Howard the Duck in here before taking on his own ongoing series. We have to stop here and talk about Giant-Size Chillers. So Giant-Size Chillers was collected in the Marvel Horror, and then Marvel Horror Lives Again. It's in a horror anthology series, but man, it was so good. And those books are out of print, unfortunately. They are great, but like a horror anthology, as much horror as they could get away with during this time with the Comics Code. But just wonderful artwork through here. And the issues are all intact. This is the Ron Wilson artwork right here. Issue number 3 isn't collected because it's just reprints. So you do have the cover there, the awesome cover, and then some of the pages that were not previously collected. And reprinting stories from Chamber of Darkness. That's what I wanted to see too, the Chamber of Darkness. But I think Fantagraphics is doing Tower Shadows and Chamber of Darkness eventually. This, for the first time, is collected, and that is the Supervillain Team-Up. There was a trade paperback, but not in an oversized format. I know people have been wanting this for a long time, the Supervillain Team-Up from Marvel, because both of these lead into and this is, yes, a team-up between Doctor Doom and Submariner. This does lead into the ongoing series that went on, I want to say, for 14 issues. And some of the stories have been reprinted in the pages of the Doom Omni, but a lot of this stuff hasn't. And then, of course, the one book we have to talk about, I mean, not in full detail, I promise. I am the Uncanny Omar, but I can't just be biased. But yes, this was historical. This is what changed the game. This is Giant-Size X-Men, which introduced us to Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Thunderbird, Sunfire, Wolverine, and of course Banshee had previously been introduced, but they officially joined the X-Men here. And along with Cyclops, go and try to rescue the original X-Men from Krakoa. I mean, this was a game changer. A huge game changer. From a title that was canceled just reprinting old stories, this brought the X back to, to Marvel Comics. Beautiful artwork by Dave Cockrum through here. And then you get the Giant-Size Invaders in the back here, which has previously been collected in the Invaders Omni. And what you do get in the back, see, these are the kind of letter pages that you get. It's like the back matter that you would get. So you do have, speaking of back matter, you do have the 1974 house ads right here. Original artwork, which, depending on what book you have, has been collected before. Giant-Size Man-Thing 4, page 39. Look at that. Love that sketch by Gil Kane, and there's the cover. And they give you the Giant-Size comics right here that were reprints, and they tell you what was reprinted. So there were Giant-Size books that were reprinted here, just the covers. Like, you had Giant-Size Captain America, Giant-Size Captain Marvel, Giant-Size Daredevil, Doctor Strange, but they were all just reprints. But at the time, you have to kind of put yourself back then. Kids didn't know that these books had already come out, and for 50 cents for a big 68-page book, that's a deal. You didn't know they were reprints. Now, the collectors at the time, I don't know how many there were, did know, but it's still pretty cool. And I had a friend of mine that would collect all the Giant-Size books. So, speaking of all the Giant-Size books, what's missing from here? Well, as I mentioned, the Giant-Size Spider-Man 2 and 3. Giant-Size Doc Savage is missing from here. The Kid Colt, Giant-Size Kid Colt is missing through here, and I think those were just reprints. Surprised we didn't get a cover for that. There was a Queen-Size Millie the Model that I'm surprised we didn't get a cover for. Let's see what else is not in here. Is it the Howard the Duck that's not in here? Oh, the Giant-Size Master of Kung Fu. Giant-Size Howard the Duck. I think that was a Treasury edition. That's why it's not collected in here. And also, if you're thinking you saw Giant-Size X-Men 1, and then you saw the cover to Giant-Size X-Men 2, which, of course, was a reprint of previously printed stories. There was a Giant-Size X-Men 3 and 4 that it was, I think, Joss Whedon that wrote those, and it was supposed to be Dave Cockrum, but in the end, I think it was Neil Adams and Salvador La Roca that did those. Yeah, so this is Giant-Size X-Men. So eventually, this is what became the annual. So the next book was like the King-Size Annual number 3. So those aren't in here, like, or any of the modern stuff like the Giant-Size Spider-Man, Miles Morales, or of course the Giant-Size X-Men, Master Kung Fu. I think those are the ones that are missing. Doc Savage, Master Kung Fu, the Spider-Man 2 and 3, the Queen-Size Millie the Model, not quite the Giant-Size or King-Size. But I think that's it. And then we get all the covers in the back. So pretty much the 1974 to 1975 era is what you get here. Now, as far as the binding, it is sewn binding, printed at the Donnelly printer. So you do have glossy paper stock. Right here, I wanted to look at something that had lighter colors. Like, actually, this will work because this shows you. Yeah, so you do have minimal bleed through happening, and usually it's during the whites, not really the lighter colors. And as far as the spread pages, because there are quite a few, here we go, towards the beginning with the Four Horsemen story from the Fantastic Four. And there is a little bit of gutter loss happening here, like you can see from the knee and from, can't even see the left eye there. So what I want to do is go back to the Avengers, and okay, you have the Avengers Omni Volume 5 here that has issues 1 through 4 of the Giant-Size collected, and you have the Giant-Size Omni. This one printed at the Donnelly printer, this one printed at the iMac printer. And one of the things I want to say is that, okay, so this one says continued in Giant-Size Avengers. That's not the case for every one of these Giant-Size books. Some of them are standalone stories that just happen to introduce characters. But some of them do say, you know, to be continued in the ongoing series. And of course, I am behind here. There we go. Kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. You know, as far as the colors and the scans, like, honestly look, let's look here. There we go. They honestly look about this. There we go. They honestly look about the same, like the colors. Yeah, definitely look about the same. And so do the scans, because it looks like they're using the most recent scans for this, too. And let me just get over here to look at the splash page, so you can just see how it looks compared to this. Yeah, colors look about the same, and so do the scans. But that is it. That's what Giant-Size Marvel was from 1974 to 1975. And as always, that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Omni. In the comments down below, let me know if you remember these times of Giant-Size Marvel books. Do you want to see a continuation of the Marvel villains team up in an Omni format? But I guess they could throw in the two Giant-Size, the ongoing. Anyway, leave all those comments down below, and if you want to see something like the obscurities, the things that weren't collected in here, collected one day in an Omni format. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.